How's it going, everyone? My name is Destiny Element. Hope you guys are all doing well, and we are back with another Honkai Star Rail video for today, man. I've been under the weather. I've been sick for about a week and a half, so that's why I haven't been uploading. But we are back. I'm still a little bit sick. I'm still recovering, but I do want to upload a video for you guys. And I wanted to discuss Sparkle because Sparkle will be here in T minus less than 48 hours. She should be here Thursday night. I don't know, it may be different for you guys. I'm going by Eastern Standard Time, but I wanted to talk about her kit overall. So I wanted to go over how she operates, what she does, and how good she is in comparison to supports such as Bronya, Ron Mei, Ting Yun, Hanya, and I wanted to go over most likely how you're going to build her in team comps that are going to work really well on her. So I'm going to try to keep this video short, but I kind of just wanted to go over my opinions on Sparkle. And for anyone that is saving up for her and they already have her pre-built and pre-farmed, that's perfectly fine. Good luck with your summons. But for individuals that want to min-max their box and optimize their teams for Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction, I'm just kind of here to offer a second opinion. But if you guys do enjoy the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, really does help me out. And yeah, let's get into it. So real quick, for anyone that wants to pre-farm for Sparkle for these next like 48 hours, I just wanted to real quick, if you are pre-farming for Sparkle, you will need the Heavenly Melody. You are going to need this for the Harmony characters on Penacony. For the character Ascension materials, you are going to be farming the Shape of Rose so that you can get the Dream Flamer. And then for, in my opinion, so with Sparkle being a support character, you want her to act as quickly as possible for your team. I would probably say you want to pre-farm Messenger. I think Messenger is going to be her best set. I would opt for a crit damage chest piece with speed boots, and then you can run like an energy regen rope with a HP or defense percent orb. When it comes to planar sets on her, I would probably say either Fleet of the Ageless for the additional attack increase and HP to make her bulkier, but you can also get away with Broken Keel for the effect resistance, so CCs work less on her, and then you get more crit damage as well too, so that she can support the team and for your team to hit harder. But if you're running a mono quantum team, I would probably say Penacony, Land of the Dreams would probably be your best bet, because this will give you energy regen, and then this is going to increase your damage by 10% for all other allies that are the same type. So you're already going to be running mono quantum, so that will probably be your best set. So that's just like the quick guide that I wanted to give you real quick. I'm probably going to do another guide in depth talking about Sparkle when she does officially drop, but like real quick, if you are pre-farming or if you do want to pre-farm, yeah, I would say Penacony, Land of the Dreams would be the best option if you're running mono quantum, or if you're running like 3 quantums on your team in general. But for like the more convenient, versatile option, I would say Broken Keel or Fleet of the Ageless, so that you can get the attack increase or crit damage increase for your team. And this is going to also give you HP to be bulkier. You're probably just going to run Messenger because you want as much speed as possible and you want to be able to buff your team as much as you can. But okay, now getting into her abilities and team comps, in my opinion. Okay, so getting into Sparkle, I wanted to compare her to another support character, and I think Bronya will probably be the best fit for that. So now that we like skimmed over like relics and planar sets and what to pre-farm for her, I wanted to go over if you should be pre-farming her or if you should be saving and trying to build her in general. Now, the biggest thing about Sparkle, getting into Sparkle, obviously, her big selling point is the fact that she can recover skill points and increase the amount of skill points on your team. So I'm going to throw up like her ultimate, her skill, her talent, and I'm going to try to explain them, so if at any point you guys need to read it, you guys can pause the video. But Sparkle's big selling point is she ups your skill points from 5 to 7, and then she's able to recover 4 skill points for your team while also granting them a buff called Cypher. And Cypher is going to pair with her talent so that for every skill point that your ally uses, it buffs their overall damage, and it stacks up to 3 times, and I'm pretty sure it lasts for 2 turns. She has a very, very strong kit. Obviously this is gonna incline a more skill point negative, or just kind of a more aggressive playstyle in general, because you're basically recovering these skill points so that you can use them, so that you can have overall damage buffs and good uptime on your buffs. And then by the time those buffs are about to go away, Sparkle can pop her ultimate again, and then you can just kind of keep this constant uptime of overall damage buffs and crit damage buffs on her, and you can just keep your team from going to one skill point or no skill points. And that's really good. She does have a very strong kit. Comparing that with someone like Bronya, her ultimate is gonna just give a overall attack increase, and then it's gonna also increase the whole team's crit damage as well too, by 15% of Bronya's crit damage plus another 18%. Now, do I think Sparkle is better than Bronya? It's really kind of dependent. If you're someone that has Bronya or Ranmei, I personally would not summon for Sparkle, and I'm gonna give my reasoning for that, because I just don't think Sparkle is gonna outperform either one of them. Now, with Sparkle's ultimate, yes, you are recovering 4 skill points and you're getting a huge damage increase, for the most part. But that's only if you use those skill points. You have to make sure that you have DPSs that are fast enough to utilize all those skill points, or you need a character like Dan Heng or Xing Shui who can use all those skill points in one turn, because you need to make sure that you maximize your overall damage buffs. Now, something that's really good about Sparkle, and I do want to actually talk about it because I'm not sure if they referenced it or talked about it in the live stream. Sparkle's action advance is only by 50%. So whenever Sparkle uses her skill, she is going to advance her ally's action by 50%, and then she's going to increase their crit damage by 30% of her crit damage, plus another, I think, 54% at level 10 for her skill. And that's going to last for 1 turn. Now, there are some nuances with it you have to take into account. You have a character that will advance an ally's action and buff their crit damage, and you are going to have a whole bunch of skill points to use, and you're going to get a whole bunch of overall damage buff as well too from using those skill points. That's great, but if you can't utilize all of those skill points, then you're kind of just wasting them, especially if you have characters on your team that are skill point positive or skill point negative. You're kind of forced to run DPSs that are very selfish, that will use all of them. You are going to get more crit damage from Sparkle. Sparkle's going to give you more crit damage 9 out of 10 times compared to Bronya. But something to take into account is the 50% action advance. There are characters, or more importantly, there are enemies in the game that will outspeed your team. And if you use Sparkle's skill and you buff your ally and your ally still doesn't go, and that enemy still outspeeds them, it's gonna hinder your team, and you're gonna probably end up losing damage, and you're probably gonna also take a bunch of damage, when in turn you could use a character like Bronya who will advance their action immediately. Now, for anyone that doesn't know how action advance work, action advance and speed are 2 separate things, but speed still influences your action advance. So imagine every character on your team has a bar underneath them, and that bar is going to fill up a certain speed depending on your speed, obviously. So the more speed you have, the quicker that bar is going to fill up. Now with action advance buffs, that is going to basically cheat the system, and you're just going to fill your bar up automatically. Now this is really good, so that's why you want a bunch of speed. The more speed you have on a character, the more turns you get. That's why people usually opt for about 134 speed at the bare minimum, and like 140 speed, so you can guarantee yourself those 2 extra turns. Now with the action advance is a very strong skill, but I'm worried in most cases where you're doing Memory of Chaos 11 and 12, or even in Pure Fiction, if the enemies are going to be able to outspeed Sparkle's buff still. So there's a lot of things to take into account. Not only do you have to make sure you're using all the skill points that Sparkle gives you, you also have to make sure that you have the maximum stacks so you can keep the overall damage buff up, but you also have to make sure that your characters are fast enough so that when Sparkle does advance their action by 50%, they can still go immediately, because if she does advance their action and the enemy is still faster than them, it's going to cause a bunch of problems and a bunch of dilemmas. Now, when it comes to in comparison with Bronya, a lot of people are saying Sparkle is going to excel in Mono Quantum, but you can use her on other teams. And that's true. You can use Sparkle on other teams, and you're still going to get the skill point regeneration, the crit damage buff, the action advance, and you're still going to get the overall damage buffs. But one of Sparkle's traces, I'm going to throw it up on screen, is that the more quantum allies you have, the bigger the attack percent increase you will get. So yes, you can run Sparkle on other teams, but the problem is that you are missing out on a huge part of her attack buff. Now, granted, you could do a Mono Quantum team, or you can even do Silverwolf, Fushuan, Sparkle, and Dan Heng and Bibidu Lune. And even then, with Dan Heng, you're not going to have full Quantum, but you still will get a nice attack increase. The problem is that when you get into more diverse teams, and Sparkle is the only support on the team, or let alone the only Quantum character on that team, would you run Sparkle over a character like Bronya and Ron Mei? And in my opinion, I don't think so. I think Bronya is going to actually outperform Sparkle on hyper carry teams, and I think Ron Mei just offers way more support than the both of them, and that's going to make Sparkle a little bit of a liability, because yes, when you're looking at Bronya to Sparkle, you are sacrificing different things for your team to succeed. With Sparkle, you have crit damage and action advance and skill points, but with Bronya, you have a 50% attack increase. You still get a crit damage buff, but her big selling point with her skill is that not only does it advance your action by 100%, but she dispels debuffs. So she has a little bit of sustain, and dispelling debuffs in a game where enemies are going to freeze you, stun you, delay your turn, immobilize you, steal your allies, or even like with the new enemy, the death enemy that's gonna stop your allies from participating in a certain amount of turns. These are things to take into account, and then you have Bronya's bonus traces, where she does give a defense increase for 2 turns at the start of battle, and then another overall 10% damage increase. So those are things to take into account. And then when you look at Ron Mei, she's going to be able to increase speed, increase weakness damage on enemies. She's going to increase break effect as well too, an overall damage buff. She's going to delay enemies' actions, all type resistance penetration. Like, Ron Mei kind of just has it all. You have a character that gives break effect, weakness break efficiency, all type resistance penetration, speed, delays the enemy's action, overall damage buff. So the question is, do I think Sparkle will outperform Bronya and Ron Mei? No, I don't think so. And unless you're running a mono quantum team, it's hard to justify her as your main support compared to these two. Now, if you don't have Ron Mei, obviously summon for Sparkle. If you don't have Bronya, summon for Sparkle. That way you can have a support for both sides of Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction. But if you are someone like me and you do have Bronya and you do have Ron Mei, there's very little justification to summon for Sparkle, in my opinion, because Sparkle will do extremely well on a mono quantum team and a quantum team with Dan Heng. But in every single other case where you are running a different DPS, such as like Kafka, Black Swan, Himiko, Topaz, Dr. Ratio, I wouldn't even use Sparkle with Jingliu, because Jingliu is going to be able to be skill point positive when she transforms. And something else that's really important is that when Jingliu does transform and she uses her skill does not consume a skill point. So it's like you're not even going to benefit technically from Sparkle's passive, from her talent. So these are things to take into account. And then you have other DPSs like Blade, who is skill point positive and honestly doesn't really need it. But these are things to take into account. These are things that you should look into if you are summoning for Sparkle, because on one hand, you are getting a huge crit damage buff, your action advance, you're getting skill points, and you're getting 3 stacks of overall damage buffs. And I'm pretty sure at 3 stacks with her ultimate up, you are going to get like a 60% damage buff from Sparkle. So, you get crit damage buff, you get action advance. But besides that, she doesn't really have anything, in my opinion, that will make her outperform either of these two, And if you're not running her on mono quantum, then she's definitely not going to outperform either of these two. So these are things that I think you guys should honestly think about before summoning for her. But if you are pre-farming for her, if you already have the means to summon for her and get her and you really like her, then go for her. If you're someone that doesn't have Ron Mei, or you missed out on her, or you don't have Bronya and you're wondering if you should summon for another support, I would say definitely. Having 2 supports, 1 for each team in Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction, will definitely be beneficial for you. But if you are someone that has both of these characters, then I don't necessarily think so, especially because we have Acheron and Aventurine coming as well too, and I'm going to talk about that as well too because we have a lot of lightning DPSs, so Acheron is going to be it's going to be hard to summon for her, but Aventurine on the other hand is a preservation character, and we definitely could use some more sustain in this game because, you know, not everyone has Fushuan. But that's basically it. I just wanted to cover Sparkle. You know, I wanted to go over some pre-farming stuff for her, and I wanted to give my thoughts and opinions, and I wanted to talk about basically her and how she operates, and you know, do I think she's going to be outperforming Ranmei or Bronya? But before we wrap up the video, I do want to talk about the other characters that we do have in this game. I'm gonna summarize and talk about Sparkle and just kind of give a TLDR. Sparkle is a very good character. You know, you get a huge crit damage increase, you get skill point regeneration, you get overall damage buffs. I think the problem with Sparkle is that she is a very niche character, and if you're not running her on a mono quantum team, you are missing out on a huge attack percent increase and a huge part of her kit. And granted, that attack percent may not seem like a huge part of her kit, but you are missing out on potentially a lot of damage without it. So in my opinion, you have characters like Seili and Xing Shui who will be able to benefit from Sparkle heavily. But then there's also other DPSs such as Dan Heng and Argentine who can really benefit from Sparkle and having those skill points. Now, if you're not running Sparkle on a mono quantum team, you know, you're probably going to miss out on a bit of damage because you're not going to have that full attack percent buff, but you can still utilize her and you still can get a bunch of damage out with her as well too. So it really kind of depends. You know, if you're running mono quantum, yeah, she's going to be a great fit on that, whether you're running Seili or Xing Shui. If you're not running mono quantum, then it's kind of a matter of, do you think she can out support Bronya or Ranmei? And in my opinion, I don't think she can. But if you are someone that doesn't have Ranmei or Bronya, then yeah, absolutely summon for her, you know, because you should have two supports. You should have a support for both teams in Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction. But if you are someone like me and you do have both of them, then you're probably not going to summon for her because I just don't see Sparkle being a better support than Ranmei or Bronya on teams with other DPSs such as Jing Yuan or Dr. Ratio and Topaz or Blade, or, you know, it really depends, you know, but I just don't think she's going to outperform. So while she is extremely good, and I do really like her kit, I just don't think she's going to be a better support than either one of these characters, and you're kind of sacrificing a lot, especially if you're not running multiple quantum allies on your team. That's basically it. If you guys do enjoy the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comment section if you guys are summoning for Sparkle, what kind of team comps you want to run her on, and let me know, you know, how your guys' summons go. But that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.